Okay.
Alright, so hi, my name is Madelyn Holveck. I'm a graduating senior at Cass Tech this year, and in my freshman year, I made the mascot, the cyberknight for Cass Tech.
Awesome. So, how long have you been doing art?
So for art, that's sort of just been a thing that I've been doing my entire life. When I was little, my parents would give me printer paper instead of coloring books, and that sort of incentivized me to make my own things instead of just using things that other people made. And I think ever since then, that's sort of been my thing. Is I try to make what I can to express myself or make something new instead of just settling with something else someone else made. And yeah, I've just been doing art ever since. And when people look at me now and think, "Oh, I'm a really good artist," they're not really seeing like the many years where I've just been trying and failing at it. So yeah, it's really the overtime is what allowed me to be good today. And even then, I still have lots of things to improve. So ever since I was little, my whole life.
Awesome. How did you come up with the idea of the cyberknight mascot?
When we were first considering a mascot, I remember there was this sort of confusion where we're a tech school, but what kind of mascot would you have to represent that, as well as having a mascot that also represents our values? There isn't really that many tech or computer mascots out there. It's mostly just organic animals. And I think that's the main thing I wanted to overcome. Because I remember like all of my preliminary ideas were like robots or something, but they didn't feel very unique is what I think what the issue was. And I know for sure I didn't want to have an animal mascot because there's thousands of animal mascots already. And also what I don't like about animal mascots is they only embody one thing. Like an eagle soars, but what else can it do? A tiger is strong and valiant, but what else? So I wanted to have a mascot that had that sweet spot where it wasn't limited on what it could do, but it still embodied certain values that are important to us, and it had to be technology focused, and that was really the main thing. And my process took a while, but originally I remember thinking of knights because they're sort of they don't have the issue of being non-human. They could still have the versatility of a human has, even though they're associated with specifically, like chivalry and strength and defense and things like that. They're still humans, and they can have that sort of versatility in what they represent. And so I had the idea of a knight because I remember I went to a middle school I didn't attend a middle school, but I had visited one with a knight mascot, and I remember feeling like very connected with it more than any other mascot, and it sort of stuck with me, like the idea of a knight as a mascot. And one day I just thought, like, what if I combined a knight with a robot? So we could have the versatility that the knight brought, the honor code that any knight can have and build, as well as being, tech focused. And that's where the idea of a robot knight came from, or like a knight that exists in cyberspace. And I just called it a cyber knight. That was honestly the best name out of anything else that I could come up with. I still think is kind of like, it's a really quirky name. but it's way better than anything else I could come up with. And I think when I was actually designing it, like what visually it would look like, I wanted it to stand out and be its own design. You know, it's not a generic knight, it's a cyber knight. It's not like just slapping a robot and a knight together, you know, it's its own thing. Just like the way this school is its own thing. You know, we're new, we're doing things that have never been done before, and the school is sort of like a character out of all the schools itself. So I wanted the mascot to reflect that and be unique. So I put a lot of principles that go into character design into play. You know, having a unique silhouette and a unique combination of colors. And eventually I focused on it was a mix between an armament helmet that opens up and has the plate in front, and then the Spartan, the Roman Spartan plume, I think is what it's called. And I sort of combined those to create the first rendition of the Cyber Knight. And I remember having a lot of trouble with it because I was experienced with using Adobe Illustrator, but what was happening was the proportions were very hard to get right to where it felt natural. And I think that was my main process for like designing the first one. And after that, there were depictions I had to make where some of the body was shown, and also like what weapons or equipment it would use. And I remember when I first made that one, it's the one where it's holding a halberd and it has the cape in the background that's been used in a lot of places already. I remember there was pushback when I made that one because I think it was the school district was concerned that we had a mascot depicted with a weapon. And I thought, okay, how about I try to just like replace it with a shield or something, but the composition of that drawing just wouldn't work with a shield on it. So I'm not sure what exactly happened, but they eventually just decided, okay, we'll let it slide. And that became it. But I thought that decision was a bit strange because I picked the halberd specifically because it's not really an offensive weapon. If you look at the history of it, it started out as like people on horses would use it to grapple other people on horses, but it fell out of favor eventually, and it became the leaders' equipment. Basically, leaders in armies, like generals, they would have a halberd and they would use it to direct their men. They'd also use it to like keep musketeers in line and hold their guns in the perfect formation. And I think now today it's specifically a guard weapon. I think there's some countries in Europe where their royal guard uses halberds and they just guard buildings. You know, they don't go out and fight people. And it's also the equipment of a leader. So I thought the halberd was a very like tame choice, especially more tame than a sword, but they didn't like it at first, so I thought that was weird. But as with the choice with the halberd, the Cyber Knight isn't really like a fighter or a conqueror. You know, it has an honor code that it defends. This goes in the same vein as cybersecurity, which is central to our school, where you don't go out and find and attack hackers. You build something good and you stay there and defend it from people who want to exploit it. You know, that's like a central principle for cybersecurity. White hat cybersecurity is you defend, you don't attack. You know, you have your honor code and you respect it, and that's something I wanted to get across with the Cyber Knight. So that's also why it has a shield and a halberd and not a sword, because swords aren't really defensive. They've always been like a versatile attack and defend weapon. So I think that's like my entire design process with it. I have a couple of depictions that just never got finished. but the main ones are the head from the profile view, and the one with the halberd that's sort of in the front view with a cape in the background. So I think that's it.
That was really good, actually. I was gonna say, just for reference though, can you refrain from also like, I think one time you kicked this thing, and also like with with like your bracelet, if you can like, if you can keep it from like hitting the table, because that picks up on the microphone a lot, like things hitting the table.
So, yeah, that makes sense. I'll just take it off.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, I was just noticing that during but the answer was really good. I never knew that about the halberd, actually. That's really interesting.
Yeah, what I noticed, like, just subconsciously is, like, whenever I saw a halberd, I didn't think of, like, people, like, going and stabbing people with it. I just thought of guards just standing outside buildings. So, I remember when I was designing it, like, I picked up on that and I sort of researched it a little. And I was kind of correct, because, it started out as an offensive weapon. Like, people on horses would grapple other people on horses with it because of its reach, but eventually it fell out of favor and it just became like a staff in a way that guards and leaders have. So yeah, I was happy with including it.
Yeah, I think that was a good choice. So can you explain how students actually got to vote on a mascot freshman year, since we were the first class, and how you campaigned to the classes on why they should choose the cyberknight?
So I remember that being very intense. At first it started out with like 5 different mascots, and I'm not gonna lie, some of them were pretty dumb. Like, people were just doing it for the laugh. Like, there was a goat, there was a Wi-Fi box, there was a cactus, like, they were sort of just like trying to be funny. But the two that really got in competition with each other were the tiger and the cyberknight. Those were the two that people were split on. And as I mentioned before, I didn't really like the idea of an animal mascot, because I think there's plenty of cool animals that we could use as a mascot, but especially with like a tiger, it's just everyone uses a tiger. There's got to be like at least like 10 different institutions just in the city that have a tiger as a mascot. So as with the school is like, it's unique, it's new, we do our own thing. So I thought the tiger as a mascot would really not honor that. So when it goes for campaigning against the tiger, I remember what I did is I'd just go to each classroom throughout the day and I'd give like a small speech on why a tiger wouldn't honor our uniqueness as a school. And I would instead say the cyberknight is not only unique, but it's versatile. It's relatable to us as humans are. And even though the cyberknight is like ambiguously human, like it's unclear if it's actually like an organic human, it's still a humanist construct. The idea of a knight, even if it's just a robot or some cybernetic entity, it's still fashioned after humans and it upholds human values. So I was giving like speeches to each class, just short speeches on like how a tiger is overused, it's sort of lost its meaning, and the cyberknight is just something new that really represents what our school is and embodies like how we're willing to cut down a new trail instead of just taking the one that's been treaded already. And I remember I think the vote was close. I think that just may be me remembering, like, because I was pretty anxious while the voting was happening. I don't know officially, but from what I remember, it was close, but the cyberknight eventually won out. And I remember the staff especially being in favor of the cyberknight. But yeah, I was really happy when it actually won out. Yeah, I was just happy that people saw the same thing, the same vision for the school that I had. And ever since, it's been nice seeing it around. I honestly So people think like if I made something like a picture and then it gets used everywhere, that like I'd be like, oh, that I made that every time I see it, but I honestly don't. Like I'll see a car driving with my own artwork of the mascot on it, and I don't feel like I don't go like, oh, that's mine. I think, oh, that's my school. You know, like it's become something greater than me. If that makes sense. Um, yeah, it's not really like mine anymore. It's the school's, and I think that's what it should be, and I'm happy that it's that way.
Interesting. I was gonna ask you what was the process involved in bringing the cyberknight into life, and if there were any difficulties in making the artwork. But you kind of touched on that in your first answer, so I'm just gonna skip that question. I was gonna also ask if you could talk about some of the other artwork you made for the school, but you talked about those different renditions as well. The one with the halberd, is that the one you're talking about where that's on the senior shirts?
No, that one I made like just June. The one with the halberd I was talking about was like sophomore year, I think. It was the one on the signs, the yard signs. I'm trying to think where else it was used. I think I've seen it on flyers at some point. I think it was on the TVs, but it has a halberd like this, and it's the cape is in the background. That was the one I was talking about.
So can you talk about the one you made for the senior shirts?
Yeah, so the one I made for the senior shirts was in June of 2020, so like not that far, not that long ago. With that one, I was specifically on a time crunch, you know, like I only had a month, and I also had a lot of other things going on. And I remember originally I wanted the knight to be in a pose like this, and from a sort of worm's eye view, like this really dramatic looking on the horizon going out. But I just didn't have time to make something that dynamic. So I just settled with like the just sitting there with a flag that had 2021 on it. You know, like this is Conquer, we did it. You know, move on. I think it came out nice, but I remember like when I was submitting it, I was like, there's so many things wrong with this. I didn't like the way it turned out. The hair is too stiff, the pose is stiff, blah 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 blah. I think that was mostly just me, like, you're more critical of your own work than everyone else's. But I had sent it to some of the students that were in charge of printing out the shirts, and they were able to clean it up a little bit more than I could. And even though it was like quick, I wasn't very satisfied with it. I still like how it came out on the shirts, because as I said before, like when you make something like that and it becomes a part of the school, you know, like it's not mine anymore in a way. And I don't know, I don't feel critical of myself when I see it anymore. And I remember a lot of students were like, hey, this shirt is really cool, good job, I love the artwork. And that was nice to know they didn't see the same flaws I did. But I remember I was looking at it in the mirror, because when you look in a mirror, graphics get flipped, like words and stuff get flipped. And I remember, oh hey, this looks a lot better when it's flipped that way. I don't see the flaws anymore. So I want to say, like, I had a small time frame. I did what I could. I had a different vision for it with like looking in this dramatic pose, but I really just settled on the sort of crest-like one where it's just sitting there with the flag. And I'm satisfied with the way it came out. It looks nice. Everyone else likes it. So I think that's all I really care about is the seniors connect with it and like it. So yeah, I hope they also like use the artwork somewhere else if they want to. Like if they need a cyberknight doing that, they can use it. As I said before, it's not really my artwork anymore. It's the school. You know, it's part of the school's identity now. Every artwork I make of the cyberknight. So you know, I give them free reign to do whatever they want with the artwork I make.
Awesome. Is it still recording? Yeah, it is. Just making sure. So. So that's a really good question. So what do you want to do in the future, and has CAST influenced or helped that goal?
CAST has really changed what the outlook on my future would be. I went to a middle school. It was like a college preparatory middle school, and I wasn't happy there at all because its philosophy was just assign tons of work, learn to manage your time, but none of the work was really meaningful. And the subjects were nice, but the teachers didn't have time. The teachers didn't have time there to really teach you, what makes that subject so great. They didn't have time to dump the passion they had for that subject into their work. It was just busy work to fill the grade book and like beat the idea of time management into students' heads. When I was there in elementary school, I had trouble with math. Like, I didn't learn to divide till like fifth grade when I was supposed to learn in third grade and things like that. I remember whenever I got a bad math grade, I would feel terrible, like, because everything else came to me very naturally. I was very good at it, but not with math. And when I went to middle school, where it was like the college preparatory environment, it only got worse. I still sucked at math. I was getting taught how to do it. I would pass the test at the end of the year, but over the summer I just forget all of it. It was just muscle memory. I still didn't know what math was, what it was for. Whenever I walked into a math classroom, I just felt dread. Like, I shouldn't be here, I suck at this, I'm a failure. And I know I'm not alone on that. I know a lot of students deal with that, where they struggle with math. They don't understand what it could be used for. They don't imagine themselves ever using math in any way. And so middle school classes, I passed algebra early and everything, but that's all I did. I passed it, and I didn't really learn algebra. I just forgot it at the end of the year. And when I came to CAST, I was pushed there for many reasons. One of them being that middle school, where I was spending all of my hours just staying above, not failing. All of those hours were just to the school. I couldn't do anything I wanted to do. I didn't have time to learn computer programming, which was something I really wanted to do ever since elementary school. I didn't have time to do a lot of art. I only had what I could do in the art class they gave me, and that was all. And I just didn't have a lot of time to do things I wanted to do. So I went to CAST because they promised like computer science and stuff like that, which I really wanted to do for a while, but I just didn't have time at that school. And I remember being like unsure, like what if this school is just like, it's gonna be the same thing, but they just promise computer science? Or like, what if they fail and they get stuck there? And I remember having those questions of doubt, but I decided to just do it anyway. And it's like the best decision I could have made, because the school really changed everything for the better. Going back to my experience with math, when I came here freshman year, I was still stuck in that mindset where I suck at math. I can't do anything about it. Why am I taking math classes still? Why am I even considering a career that would use math in it in some way? I did learn computer science, and I remember being really happy that I finally got the time to sit down and just learn how to code. And after I did that with the teacher there, like, I learned how to code, I just started like going off, doing my own projects with my own time, the free time I had now, and just really embracing that new skill I had. And I was able to make a lot of things I just never wouldn't I never would have been able to make at that other school. And in sophomore year, I got Algebra 2 after taking geometry. And I remember thinking, like, this is gonna suck, it's just gonna be just as bad as algebra. I had breakdowns in algebra because of how stressful it was. And I was just, like, not looking forward to it yet again. But the teacher that was teaching that class, they were a mathematician. And because of the way CAST is structured around meaningful work and picking up skills through experience, they were able to teach us what math really is. And they had the passion for math, and they were able to show us that passion and tell us why we should have a passion for it too. And I remember, like, over the course of that class, my dread just, like, dissipated for, like, the first time in my life. The dread for math I had just disappeared. And what the teacher taught me that was most important was math isn't about getting everything right on your first try. Like, they taught me that Einstein, he had assistants to do the math for him because math is just so hard. You fail all the time. And the mathematicians that get things right, it's because they failed, like, tons of times before. And what my other school had taught me is if you don't get math right the first time, like, you take the test or you do the homework and you don't get it right the first time, that's on you. Like, you should be getting everything right the first time. And if you're not, you're just not a good mathematician. That's what they were teaching me over there, and that really made me feel like, why am I doing math then? I can't get anything right. But taking that class really showed, like, erased that from my mind and showed me, like, hey, this is what math really is. And not only how failure is part of the process, but all of the things you can do with math and how it's relevant to literally anything. So I learned that I could use math in computer programs, in computer programming, and also, like, how math and art intertwine at many different points. And after that class, math in my career became a possibility. Like, I could actually see myself doing math at some point. And that was really, like, such a huge shift for me that I would have experienced at that other school, which continued into high school, by the way. So I had to, like, actually leave it for good. And in my junior year, following that class, I entered a mathematical modeling competition. It's a nationwide competition where you're given 14 hours and you and your team you'd have to make a mathematical model of a situation to give you an answer to 3 different problems. And this is, like, complex math. Like, the winners of this competition, they're given a lot of like, they're the best of the best sort of thing. So, like, this was, like, actual high-level math. And I did it. You know, I thought I was terrible at math. I'd never do this, like, just a year before. But by my junior year, I was in a math modeling competition. And I was just doing it. Like, I had the confidence and the self-esteem to do that now. I didn't win or anything, but still, like, I was just very glad that I could actually do stuff like that and not be afraid of it. So I did the math modeling competition, and by that point, I was also using math just for, like, things I liked. In the summer of that year, so, like, summer year, I started a project where I found different equations I needed to emulate a digital version of a guitar. So I was able to, like, search the internet for equations used in luthier, in the craft of luthing, which is, like, building guitars. So I found math equations like that. I mixed them with sound physics equations to write my own equations and use them in a computer program. And I remember, like, as I was doing that, I was like, I would not even think to sit here and just do math in my free time for a whole, like, week if I hadn't gone to CAST, if I hadn't been shown what math really is. And since then, I'm still working on it. It's a work in progress. But I have tons of computer programs now where I just use physics and math modeling. And I combine computer programs with the math in it with art. I think it's just called new media, where it's like art that uses like the newest technology and doesn't really have a place. My aim with the guitar program with the math modeling was, it was sort of an artwork to show like what is the nature of performance. You know, you could give a human guitarist, you know, a script with notes on it, and they'd just like play it back to you. You know, does that change when it's a computer that is the guitarist now? You just give it a script and then they play notes back to you. You know, is there a difference between a human and a computer guitarist? Also, just like to appreciate the beauty and the art behind music, because music is heavily intertwined with math, and I sort of wanted to utilize that idea somehow in my artwork. And yeah, I just remember, like, as I was building this project, every time I work on it, like, I would not be doing this if I hadn't come to CAST, and this is like the best possible way this could have gone. So now, I remember before, when I was asked, what do you want to do in college, I was thinking, like, I don't know, maybe biology, maybe computer science, but I don't even know if I'd be able to do it because I'd have to take math classes. And it was sort of just this fear of, like, could I even do these if I have to take a math class? Would I just fail? Would I just have to, like, be an artist, a freelance artist and nothing else because I can't do math? But now I'm like, yes, I'm gonna pursue computer science, I'm gonna pursue biology, I might pursue physics, I might just do pure mathematics. And it's like those aren't closed to me anymore because of math. Like, I can do that now. Just thanks to the way CAST is built, thanks to that teacher, thanks to the staff and the vision for the school as a place where teachers have the freedom to show kids like what the subject actually is and teach them through experience. Yeah, it's just like my whole future has such a nicer outlook now, thanks to what CAST has done for me and what the teachers are able to do at CAST.
So do you have any final words, thoughts, or anything? Pretty much I just ran out of questions, so it's just like if you wanted to add anything. If not, we can just stop too.
I think something I might want to add is I remember one of the most profound experiences I had just as a girl who plays video games. I was playing Dark Souls 2. It's a video game with knights in it. You know, there's a bunch of knights, you have to fight them. I remember I was going through that game and I came across a knight named Alessia. Like, that's a girl name. And I remember, like, I was just a little girl, and I was like, is this knight also a girl? Is that real? Like, is this real? Is it just a boy with a girl name? And I was like, I had so much doubt about it, like, is this real? And it was, like, her name is Alessia, she's a knight. She's not a knight with a bow on her head, she's not a knight with lipstick, she's a knight. And she was no different than the other knights in the game. In fact, she's like one of the most difficult enemies in the game to beat. She was like definitely up there. And I think as a girl, like that experience really was the first time I actually felt seen. You know, I saw a girl night, you know, and I remember when I was making the cyberknight, one of the other reasons I chose a halberd for the knight to wield is because Alessia, the knight, also had a halberd, and I just wanted to honor her somehow, and because she was the first time I ever felt seen, you know, just as a girl going into computer science, playing video games. And I think if there was ever a situation in the future where like the school has a particular instance of a cyberknight, like how some schools will have like, this is Tony the Tiger, he is a manifestation of our mascot. I think if that were to ever happen, I'd request that character, that instance of cyberknight, be given a feminine name, because I think the best gift I could ever give to another girl is for them to have that same moment I did, where they saw this strong hero, and for the first time in their life, it wasn't like another dude, it was actually a girl like them. And I think that's sort of the last thing I want to touch on, because I know this school is like majority dudes, and then there's like a small population of girls, and the marketing team, everyone wants to like sort of even that out and make sure the girls actually like feel like this is a place they can be in. And I remember I had that thought while I was designing a cyberknight, you know, just as a nod to the girls that are going the same path of computer science and technology. You know, I just thought of a way to like sort of connect with them in some way. And I think that's it. I think that's all my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean that was really good. That was a lot of usable footage.
Mm-hmm.